Before we start happy hour tonight, we want the audience to know our thoughts and prayers go out to all those affected by Hurricane Helene. Please consider donating to Operation Airdrop as they collect and fly out supplies to those affected. A list of needs, a link to donate, and even to volunteer opportunities be found at operation-airdrop.com. That's operation-airdrop.com. As the Front Stretch family comes together to replace the horror of Helene with hope. Now on to happy hour.
Tastes like sweet victory on a Kansas evening, and it finally ends its drought. Unlike Josh Berry and that helpless feeling when they tell you that you're out. Who is in? Who is out? That don't matter to the one car at Trackhouse. Caleb wrote, thinking out loud. I don't know if I could ever go without a watermelon smashing guy, a watermelon smashing guy, watermelon smashing guy, a watermelon smashing guy, watermelon smashing guy, a watermelon smashing guy, a watermelon smashing guy, a watermelon smashing guy. He just won the race. He just won the race. Watermelon smashing guy. He just won the race. He just won the race. Watermelon smashing guy. A watermelon smashing guy.
What is up, everyone? Welcome on into happy hour. Watermelon smashing guy, Ross Chastain with the win. Harry Styles of our own, Michael Massie with the music there as well.
A very Harry Styles.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. I think you're still your alter ego name still should be Puke Combs from now on, because it works, and it just. I feel
that's
like
the one that can get the most mileage, probably.
Yeah, I mean,
launched my career the most.
I definitely feel that way. Joining me again with his new setup. Look at this, folks. He went to outer space and came back with a new setup. Dalton Hopkins at Pit Lane LT, even though he is a captain now. Captain, my captain, how are you doing? Welcome. Are you finally back into the groove of things of being a part of this? This quartet?
Yeah, I think so. It's just good to be back in society again. But I am obviously becoming very well acclimated, as you can see from this very professional setup that I have here now, with some money that I had saved over. So I love this camera. I love everything about this. This looks so good, so professional. I don't look like I'm homeless anymore. Yeah, it doesn't look like I'm filming it off of my toaster. So, no, this looks great. I'm really excited to get this one started. We had a really great weekend of racing. So, every week that NASCAR goes by, I'm becoming just like back in the groove, man. Every single week, it's good stuff.
And joining us once again, Matthew Schwartz, a man who had to deal with a very young Michael Massie, which is why we keep bringing him back on, because we feel bad for him. Veteran sports reporter. Matt, how are you doing? And glad you are joining us once again.
Oh, I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me on again. Yeah, Michael's been one of the day ones, from the get-go there. So, hey, I've dealt with him as much as he's had to deal with me. So, it goes without saying there that friendship's strong as ever can be. So, NASCAR has been, the foundation of that for 20-some plus years now. So, and Dalton, I do want to comment and compliment you on your diecast collection. Michael can tell you when he used to come over to my house growing up, I used to have a huge 1/64 scale collection of basically every guy in the field. That's when it was easier to get them. Now, back then, every driver had their own trailer and stuff. So I just shout out to you. That's pretty sick collection.
How are you able to get those? Who do you visit, Dalton, to get those?
I know a guy. I know quite a few guys actually.
What are they? What are they called?
Well, they're called vendors, local vendors.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't. I don't refer to them by anything else. If that's what you're referring to, I couldn't possibly think of what you're saying, but yeah, no. There's a flea market. Yeah, it's a side joke. There's a flea market out there, out nearby. It's open every weekend. I know a guy.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
I've saved that in for so long to find a weasel my way in to get that joke on.
It's finally made it on the podcast.
That was
Holy
so
cow.
Good. All right, if you have a few drinks at a bar, we'll tell you why we reference what we did. Raymond Bailey did not like the race, it appears. We'll talk about it a little bit. Dwayne already in the front stretch garage, saying, talking about the Chase Briscoe situation, which we'll get to. First things first, though, Matt had a topic he wanted to talk about. We have now, 18 different winners this season, and you wanted to touch on the amplitude, big word, of the amount of winners we have.
Yeah, get your dictionaries out for that one. I think though it might be 17, but
it's a big number.
Yeah. It's I was basing that off of the NASCAR.com article that I read and kind of got most of this idea from. Anyway, we've seen, especially probably in the last handful of years, the number of different winners be in the teens. Like we said, this one's 17 or 18, and counting now that, Ross Chastain finally got the win. And with these next two races coming up, I really think, it could be a very good chance for two more winners out of that, especially Talladega this weekend. Everybody knows the plate tracks are a complete wild card, or it could be, one of the top tier guys that hung out in the back all day. You just never know. And then with the Roval, an SVG or an Allmendinger or somebody like that comes out of, come out of nowhere, but really not nowhere because it's, the road racing is their roots. So I've been, and Michael can attest to this, for a long time. I had a favorite driver for a little while, but then I've mostly been a guy that just likes a good story or guys that break winless streaks. And so I want to see that this thing get to 20 before the end of the year. I think it's still possible.
Yeah, I think it's very possible because, the guys you mentioned, you can get somebody winning this weekend. I'm trying to think like a Michael McDowell or someone like that could win.
Or LaJoy, Gilliland, one of those guys.
Yeah, Gilliland for sure. LaJoy.
I mean, AJ Allmendinger I would still put him as the favorite for the Roval.
Yeah, he's
put SVG as the favorite for the Roval now.
Oh yeah, easily, right?
He's the new
one
AJ.
of those. I mean, they're the top two or three. Like AJ probably has a ownership stake for how many times he's won at that race. At the Roval.
Yeah. And then beyond those two races, though, Kyle Busch had a real good shot at winning this past weekend. Martin Truex Jr. had a really good shot at winning. They've got the speed, so we very well could hit that number. And it's fun. I think it's way more fun when the non-playoff guys. We'll get to that topic later, but it just shows that I know the next gen car has taken flack for its racing at some places and stuff like Josh Berry getting thrown out the race basically when all he needed was 4 fresh tires.
Blaney a few weeks before that.
Yeah, Blaney a few weeks before. But it has introduced the parity that we hadn't really had.
Well,
and
that's my biggest question is the parity. Is that something that you think fans like? I personally love it, but I'm a sucker for a good storyline, but I don't know if the fans like that.
Well, that was the point of the next gen car, was to show parity. And I think we are having this middle tier now being, and the end of the Gen 6 car was like the elite of the elite teams were the typical, like your middle tier teams were not doing as well. The gap between the middle tier and the top tier was just as wide as maybe it's ever been. And now
do you
that
guys
gap.
remember? Go ahead.
Go
Trey,
ahead,
sorry.
Dalton.
I was gonna say, do you guys remember the Big Three? It was
Yeah.
like 2018 or something like that.
Yeah,
I hated
even-
that.
Yeah.
Hated it. Hated
Mhm.
it with a burning
Right.
passion in my soul.
Ironically, none of those three won the championship.
Well, I mean, but that's a whole different argument altogether. It's a whole different topic altogether. But my point being is that, like, I think once in 2018 we were in Sonoma and we only had 8 different winners. Like that's horrendous. Like I never ever want to go back to that again. So it just like Massie just said, like I know the next gen car has gotten a lot of flack. It's gotten a lot of, there are problems with it. We were just talking about it last week after Bristol. Very obvious problems with it. But when it comes to some of these other tracks, the mile and a halves, the intermediates, the tracks that everyone loathed, now they're suddenly fun again. Kansas is cool now. I used to hate Kansas, and it's because of the next gen car. So I think no matter what you say, like parity is always a good thing in the sport. I do think that maybe we could do something a little bit better to make sure that the right driver wins the championship. Again, a different topic for another day. But for right now, like we're still seeing the cream of the crop rise to the top, but we're also seeing the bottom guys get a chance to win as well. And that's fun to me. I like seeing, an occasional underdog win.
Yeah, I mean, I boldly predicted that 5 non-playoff drivers would win a race in the playoffs, and what are we at 2 so far?
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Buescher, who will be
Yep.
who will win every championship.
Correct.
And,
Yep.
And we now have Ross Chastain, and now we're heading to, we're going to talk about the 2 wildcard races being no one locked in going into them, bringing up, a lot of fear, but easily you could see someone who like Brad Keselowski, who's eliminated, a non-playoff driver, win that race, or Bubba Wallace win at Talladega, and then SVG win at the Roval. Like you definitely can see that happening. I mean, you can even see it happening at Homestead and Martinsville, and last year at Phoenix we had Ross Chastain, who wasn't in the playoffs, win at Phoenix. So I think it's good to get. I think it's going to, over time, reshape the making the playoffs conversation, and should it dictate like how good of a driver's season was when you could look at the full picture, because you're looking at, Chris Buescher and Bubba Wallace as an example of those two. Like they've had really good seasons. They've probably been top 12-ish drivers all year, but since they didn't win, they might not win a race. Like their season is not, probably fully validated. So it's definitely something in which the context of the conversation is going to change, because parity has gotten a lot better, and I think consistency gets demoted a little bit. But the fact that we are, it feels like going into a race each week, we have gone from 5 to 6 guys who can win to 15, and it's not shocking, can win and then like it's even more at a Daytona, a drafting track where it's like 2025, I would say. But like typically at these races, you can get to like, I would say 15 guys each week. Like if you go, the 4 Hendrick cars, I think, can win every week. I would put the 2311 cars in, so that's 6. The 4 Gibbs cars, that's 10. At least 2 of the Penske cars, that's 12. The RFK cars are another 14. And then maybe a Stewart Haas has enough speed. Trackhouse with Ross has enough speed. That's 15, 16. And then Kyle Busch or RCR shows up one week with Austin Dillon. That's, so it's like between 15 and 17 could win each week. And that's, I felt like the sport hadn't had that in a very, very long time.
I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate. I do enjoy the parody more than like Tom was saying, like the 2018 season. I was miserable watching that.
The end of the Gen 6 was just too much top heavy.
Well, yeah, the last year of it, Kyle Larson won 10 races.
Yeah.
But I will say, while in the moment the parody is more enjoyable, it seems that people, as time goes on, they remember the dominant seasons more than the parity seasons. Like we'll still be talking about the Kyle Larson year we won 10 times, or when Harvick was really good in 2020, or like the Jeff Gordon. People still talk about the Jeff Gordon 90s years where he was super dominant. And I find the same way, like golf was that in other sports, like golf was at its peak, like
with Tiger Woods
was dominating. And so I think that, or like a dynasty, like the Patriots.
I mean, look at the playoffs with the Chiefs. I know there's probably another factor, but they are the dynasty.
Yeah, right now. So yeah, I feel like history favors less parity than
history favors greatness, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
like basically.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need a guy to kick some butt. I will say that if going back to the original question before we move on to the next topic, going back to the original question, are we going to see 19/20 different winners? I think if we're going to see something like that, something that at least matches or surpasses 2022, it's got to happen. It's got to happen this next upcoming weekend at Talladega.
Yeah,
if it doesn't happen at Talladega, we might maybe get to 18. I
think just the schedule lends itself to that, a good possibility of that happening.
Yeah, no, it is still possible, absolutely. But it's got to happen at Talladega. If we get a repeat winner at Talladega, at the Roval, we might see a new winner. I can maybe see Martin Truex or Kyle Busch winning one of the following races after that. But aside from that, it's really, we might get two at the most, as long as we don't see one this weekend.
Or I'll throw Ty Gibbs in there as well. We still haven't seen him get that first win yet. That's got to be happening one of these days. We would think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Trey's getting caught up on his look.
What does this mean? Carter, what does this mean?
You're the glacier.
You look like a giant chunk of ice.
There's a wrestler named the Glacier, I'm pretty sure.
Also, that profile picture of Carter's there. I don't know.
Is that like white? It's White Kobe. I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Iceberg sounds like a wrestler name.
Yeah, it does.
Maybe not.
So,
wrestler.
I would deem that a badge of honor, Trey.
Carter, can you please just explain yourself?
You don't have to, Carter. It's okay. You don't want to have to insult the guy. It's all right.
Insult him away.
So, like the iceberg. I know what an iceberg looks like. Do I look like an iceberg?
This show is your Titanic.
He's calling me fat. All right, let's just be real. I think he's just calling me fat. All right, let's move to our next topic. Dalton, probably the most notable part of the race was an incident involving Chase Briscoe and Kyle Busch while Kyle Busch was leading. I know you wanted to kind of cover that for your topic this week.
Yeah, the first time when I first saw that, I audibly said out loud, I thought, wow, I can't believe Chase Briscoe just did that. Chase, moving up and kind of covering Kyle Busch's line. But the more I thought about it, the more I saw the replay, the more I realized, did Chase Briscoe really do anything wrong? I mean, here, I'll go ahead and recreate the scene. So if you look at these two right here, you'll notice that Chase was just in the way of Kyle, but Kyle didn't actually necessarily hit him. He just couldn't get around him. Is that really a bad? That was meant to be kind of a joke. Is that really a bad thing to do? Just blocking somebody? I don't think so. I think I can't really blame Kyle Busch either because he was trying to use that hole, but he didn't. Chase Briscoe said, "I thought I left him a hole." Obviously, he did not. But I do think the debate still stands. Was it even something that Chase Briscoe should be at fault for? He was trying to keep his lap, and he's still in the playoffs. And as we've seen the last couple of weeks, I mean, he's good under pressure. So maybe he deserves to be in the playoffs and, not go a lap down. He should fight for it as much as he possibly can. So I do kind of want to hear your guys' opinions along with opinions of everyone else in the field. Because every time I think about it, I keep thinking I can't fault either one of them. And every time I do that, I think, oh, it's a racing deal. So let's hear everyone else's opinion.
Go ahead, Matt.
Well,
You're the guy.
I mean, I feel like we have this conversation all the time. You can reference Austin Dillon at Richmond, or I mean, pick your favorite race. I mean, whose feelings are we hurting this week? I mean, it's what's racing and what's not anymore. I feel like there's 100 different definitions. I mean, why can't Michael McDowell or somebody who's not in the race that's trying to stay on the lead lap fight for their right to stay on the lead lap? Isn't that the whole point of racing? Not to just give it up, like unless it's like the white flag or something like that. You guys are beating and banging from the finish. Why can't they have their right to the track? And that what the guys used to say is everybody has the same right to the same track, piece of asphalt. But I don't know. I think it's much ado about nothing. These guys are a little bit on the sensitive side sometimes when it comes to that stuff. And, I maybe Chase slipped up a little bit. If he just admitted to that and said, hey, man, I'm sorry, I slipped up a little bit, then I think we move on.
Yeah, I think that Briscoe was running the same line for a while. It's not like he just all of a sudden threw a huge block on Kyle Busch. Obviously I'd have to see the few laps before that to know that for sure. But it as a lapped car, someone's getting lapped, like they say just hold your line. That's the best thing to do. And Kyle Busch thought that he could go higher than the guy that's already running a pretty high line. Like the bottom, there's a whole bottom of the track there for Kyle to go underneath of him. I agree with you guys that until you are a lap down or out of the free pass position, you have the right to fight for your race, because
You gotta fight
I know
for your race.
To red
Stay
Kyle
on
Busch.
the lead lap.
To not wreck Kyle Busch.
Yeah. But I don't get what the big deal is, why there's any blame being pointed at Briscoe. He needs to do it. The day that people about to go a lap down start pulling over and letting the leader go by, that's the day NASCAR becomes less fun, because that's what makes it more interesting. The leader will go out there in clean air and get a big lead, but then second place gets to catch back up because of lapped cars. Them battling through lap cars, it's just something that makes it more interesting. And I mean, like, I think about too, at Bristol, it was Josh Bilicki in the 66 car that was getting lapped like every 10 laps. But he has just as much right to be out there on that racetrack as anybody else. I mean, if you don't want him in the race, bring 4 more cars to the track so he doesn't qualify for it. I mean, yeah, I think it's much ado about nothing, and Kyle should have taken the bottom of the track.
You know who wouldn't have stood for that? Ryan Newman. Ryan Newman would have.
He would have blocked him.
Yeah.
In Kyle Busch's line.
And then fought him after the race. Ryan Newman is the epitome of this whole situation. He wouldn't let anybody go for anything, and so guys need to be more like Ryan Newman.
Yeah, I mean, this he go into another discussion where I think we should touch on about Kyle Busch and did he just cost himself his last chance to win this season? But Briscoe, like, it's not just that Briscoe was, trying to make the play, like trying to stay on the lead lap. He's also still in the playoffs and every position matters. Like, he basically got what he wanted there, was a caution, granted. And he kind of, saved his day necessarily. So, I think if you're Kyle Busch, he should have been just plainly more patient there and, and got around Chase Briscoe, maybe use the bottom, maybe just, I think like Briscoe didn't block his line either. I think he did what he was supposed to do. He held his line and Kyle Busch made the mistake. And so I don't think he did anything wrong necessarily, to address our topic, our headline, our great headline.
Mm-hmm.
That, is great. Good job, Dalton.
And nobody else's.
Exactly. But another point is, I think you're Kyle Busch. Yeah, you're frustrated because that was your best chance. I think it was his best chance to win, this rest of the season and have this streak. But to be fair, like, what if it didn't, what's the difference between 20 and 21 at this point? Like, if he doesn't win this year, like, do I have faith that RCR would get it right by this time next year? I'm not exactly sure. So I just think RCR has had a down year, and it's going to cost him this winning streak. What do you think, Dalton?
Yeah, I think I kind of agree up to the point where you mentioned, like, what's the difference between 20 and 21? It's like, yeah, I understand that, but I mean, I think the whole thing is that he has been so close to winning so many times this year that it's almost like the world is against him. And we this is the first time we've seen it before. I think it was around 2019, 2020, or 2020, where Kyle Busch got that win in Texas, and everyone thought, everyone prior to that thought, this is it. This is the year that he doesn't win. But no, he still got that win in Texas, and I think, yes, this might have been his most recent, or at least his best chance so far up to this point in the season to actually win a race. But I don't think it's going to be his last one. And I know, we don't think of like Talladega as perhaps a track that you can nail a driver to absolutely win at, but Kyle has won there recently with RCR. So, and, RCR's got a really good, super speedway program. So I can see maybe him having a shot there, maybe not at the Roval, but Homestead, again, he's won there before. Las Vegas, he's won there before. Martinsville, he's won there before. I mean, you can say that about most tracks in the schedule. Phoenix,
he's won every track.
It's every track before. Yeah, you can say that about most tracks in the schedule. But my point being is that this is
every track but the Roval.
Yeah, but in Chicago.
Chicago Street,
Iowa.
But my point being
the ones that have been on the schedule for a year.
The ones that have only been here for like 2 years, yeah. But my point being is that this is Kyle freaking Busch we're talking about here. Like, the guy, we thought
KFB.
KFB. We thought that Daytona was going to be his last best chance. We thought that, what was the other one?
Well, yeah.
We thought Darlington was going to be his last best chance. And then he just showed up at Kansas. And suddenly, oh my gosh, like, okay, there he is. There's KFB again. Like, who says he can't do that again in the next 5 weeks? Well, I can totally see that happening.
I would argue that he could have 3 or 4 wins this year, be right in the middle of the playoff hunt if, a couple things go different directions. And then we're talking, man, is Kyle Busch like a hard charger for the championship? If just a couple different things go different ways. I mean, that's crazy that we're thinking that, especially the way that first half of the season went. It could not have gone any worse for him.
Well, if this was the regular season and Ross Chastain hadn't already been eliminated in the playoffs, we would see 100 different headlines saying, is Ross Chastain the favorite for the championship? So it's not, but, just an observation. But yeah, I mean, that I agree. I think there's probably been maybe 3 or 4, like you said, 3 or 4 opportunities for Kyle Busch to win already this year. And he'd be, well, I guess not this race, but if he actually was in the playoffs and won this race, he'd be in the round of 8, which is, an obvious statement, but
that's assuming he made the round of 12.
Well, yeah.
Well, based on how he ran the previous one, you would probably say he would have been, but that's here and there. But
all I'm saying is, don't fret, Kyle Busch fans. His season is not over.
RELAX ish, because there's not that much time left. Moving to our next topic, it was announced today that Carson Kvapil will go full-time in Xfinity in 2025. And I feel like we talked about this last time Matt was on, but we feel like it's gotten one-upped. The 2025 Xfinity Series is going to have some heavy hitters, aren't they, Matt Massie?
Oh, yeah. As you mentioned, Carson Kvapil is going to go full-time for Junior Motorsports. There's another hot young prospect that's also going full-time for Junior Motorsports next year, and that would be Connor Zilisch.
He's pretty good.
I almost said Carson Zilisch almost made the same mistake NASCAR.com made a few days ago.
And that Oldsmobile is heading back to NASCAR this weekend with Grant Enfinger.
Fusion dance.
The Hudson Hornet.
That's Oldsmobile's back this weekend. But and also we've got a couple more, and Christian Eck is moving up as well. He's been, the face of the truck series, one of the faces of the truck series for a couple years, and he'll be with colleague racing. And you'll still have your Austin Hills, and I imagine Jesse Love, and of course Justin Allgaier will still be around, and
Sheldon Creed, Sam Mayer.
Sam Mayer. So it seems like it's going to be a really stacked field.
Josh Williams, maybe year 2 in college, gets a little bit better.
Yeah, Josh college could have a bounce back year. So what do you guys think? You guys think this is the most stacked Xfinity field we've ever seen coming up? It's got to be up.
Cup drivers can't be put in it.
Yeah, we're in a situation where there's not 20 Cup drivers in the field.
And the purity
I was going to say, ever since they removed Cup drivers from the field.
I would say if you took the top 5 prospects in NASCAR, 3 of them at least are in the Xfinity series. Zilich, Quapple, and Love.
Yeah, I could go with that.
Heim being number 1.
I think. Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Heim is in the top 5, and then Corey Day, I would say maybe.
Yeah.
So why are we not seeing Heim make that?
Oh yeah, good question.
That should have been the real topic question right there. Is what is going on with Corey Heim? Why does he not have?
Yeah, you know what? Let's change that. Yet? Why is Corey Heim not? We gave Sam Hunt the chance to answer because he said if there was sponsorship, he would do it. But
yeah,
Michael Massie, there is another team that has top tier Toyota equipment.
Is there?
Yeah.
You're talking about Ty Gibbs Racing? Is that what you're talking about? Ty Gibbs
Racing?
Hey, if he can make up with Brandon Jones.
That is true. Well, Brandon Jones never fought back, though. That's the thing, is he took it. He took that pounding in Martinsville and said,
Noah Gragson didn't fight for him. Let's be real here.
Yeah, Noah was closer to fighting Ty Gibbs than Noah Gragson was. But I'm looking at it now. Corey Heim has 11 Truck Series wins, and next year he's going to win.
This year, he has 6 this year.
So next year, when he wins all 25 Truck Series races, he'll be really high on the all-time wins list.
They might consider him. Right? They might.
Yeah, they might. Maybe once he passes Kyle Busch on the all-time truck wins, he might get some consideration for maybe like a part-time Xfinity ride. You're more
like
of
he's doing now.
Yeah, like he's doing now.
But here's the thing about Corey Heim. What if the Riley Herbst thing falls through 2311? I think he goes straight to Cup. I don't think it will, but I think that's all. That might be another reason holding it up is Corey Heim could be a Cup driver next year.
Well, also, I don't even know. I was doing the math, and we're getting off topic here, but
no,
we changed the topic. Remember,
we're changing topic. Stewart-Haas Racing, 4 charters, right? They're keeping 1 with the Haas factory teams. So that's 3 on the market. Front Row Motorsports, Trackhouse.
We already know the third one's going to 2311.
2311, RFK. RFK with Ryan Preece is a big rumor right now.
But I think that's going to be a lease charter from Rick Ware.
Yeah.
Basically taking over whatever the 51 was and making that Ryan Preece.
Probably.
Kroger, right?
Yes.
Probably,
so there we go. We figured it out. But yeah, Corey Heim. Well, it's not. Is it confirmed that Corey Heim's at Tricon? It's not been confirmed. He's at Tricon next year, right?
I certainly hope not.
He's not.
It's just basically assumed. It's assumed at this point. Bob has assumed it.
Can't help but feel bad for him. I think he's probably performed the best out of most of the young prospects in the Truck Series in the last few years.
I feel like it's him and Eckes.
What Christian Eckes has done to McAnally Racing has, honestly, just vitalized that team. It's really something spectacular, and the fact that, that should be something that, all teams are going after. It's not just
And
a
I
driver
think he's going to elevate Kaulig.
And that's my point, is that it's not just a driver that can win races, but a driver that can also elevate a team. Somebody that can bring a team out from the top 20 and to maybe back in the top 10, like Kaulig needs to be right now.
Mhm.
So I can understand that hire. Corey Heim joined Tricon. Tricon's backed by Toyota. It's really not that big of a deal. But at the same time, Corey Heim has also just outpaced the rest of the field by leagues. So on talent and success alone, he should be chosen. And that leads me back into the original topic of all this other talent going into the Xfinity series. Do I think it is the most stacked field since, Cup Series drivers were not allowed to run for points? Yes, I think it's pretty darn close. That said, there's only so many races. I think what we're about to see is basically this gauntlet, and we're going to see some drivers who we thought were really good actually not be as good as we thought. And we've seen that in the past. So I'm not going to guess who, because I really couldn't tell. But, I think we're about to see some guys go through a winless season, and then it's going to be a huge wake-up call to some of those drivers and realize, hey, welcome to the big leagues. Like, you're not as good as you thought you were. You need to get better.
They're also going to be on broadcast television, and I looked it up. Bob Pockris did he did his mid-season prospect ratings, and we forgot one, and I think it's because he may be going Cup racing this year, but it looks like it's going to be Zane Smith, which is the correct choice, another top 10 this week. But Corey Heim is 1, so we already know where he's going to be. He has Connor Zilic 2, which I honestly think you could flip those two. They've been that good. Chandler Smith 3 is the one we haven't mentioned. I'm assuming he's going to be at Joe Gibbs Racing next year. Jussie Love, we've mentioned. Christian Eckes is now going up. Brent Cruz is too young, so just skip him. Sam Mayer will be there. Nick Sanchez is going to be at Big Machine Racing, which is a team I think was smart by getting Parker Kligerman these last 2 years and has really elevated themselves to have Taylor Gray, who did a lot for might be at Joe Gibbs next year because he's done a lot with Gibbs this year. Carson Qualpole, as we mentioned, and William Sawalich, who will be 18, I think is already linked to going to. And then you have Sammy Smith at 14, and that gives us most of that top. Was it 14 is going to be in the Xfinity Series next year, and that's not mentioning. AJ, that's not mentioning not AJ Allmendinger. That's not mentioning Justin Allgaier if he comes back, which he is the Denny Hamlin of the Xfinity Series. It appears. That's not mentioning Josh Williams, who I think just had a lot of bad luck and has sent him back this year. That's not mentioning, what else may happen. So,
do we foresee Austin Hill getting a Cup ride?
No. So yeah, Austin Hill. Forgot to mention him.
If I'm Austin Hill, I don't want a Cup ride.
Yeah, you're.
I want to stay exactly where I am.
You're guaranteed what, like 4 wins at super speedways every year.
Yeah,
no one wants to pass him.
Just keep kicking butt. Be one of those dudes. I mean, hey, we've seen guys win the Truck Series title 3 times, and they're in the Hall of Fame now. Like, just be an Xfinity dude. Be a gatekeeper. Why not? There's no shame in that.
He'll go Cup racing when Austin Dillon steps down.
I mean, I think Allmendinger or Allgaier has really embraced that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I would say the mark for Xfinity, kind of the control group, I guess you'd say, to see how stacked the field is Ryan Sieg and Jeremy Clemens. Because a couple years ago, they were making the playoffs. Now, they're not making the playoffs. So that shows
and Sieg's improved. Like Sieg is
yes.
Sieg has gotten like RSS kind of got lucky with no 14s being
they
in the Xfinity
missed
Series.
their first win by this much. This much.
Some people say, certain people only have this much.
What do you mean by that, Trey?
Not going to say who, but it could be, someone who hosts a podcast, a part of this network that's not here right now, that has the initials BN. Just been told that. No, it's I've been told by people it's so.
Oh my God. I will say before we move on, Trey, if you'll let me,
Of course,
I will say before
sire.
we move on, how I can remember about a decade ago where the rookie of maybe a little more than a decade ago, but the rookie of the year was Kevin Conway for the Cup Series. We have come far
The filler
from
days.
then. Like, we had no young guys coming up through the ranks.
I mean, this year is an embodiment of it. You have Zane, Carson,
exactly.
Josh Berry is not young, but he's still a rookie. But
he's still a rookie. And I think that's even better, is that it's not just a bunch of 18-year-old, 20-year-old kids like that are rookies. We're getting veterans too, who are, it's just like it was back then. Like, we used to have 30-year-old guys become rookies in the Cup Series because they had to earn the right. Yeah, they had to earn that right to go through the ranks. Josh Berry is one of those guys that did that. I hope we see more of that as the Cars Tour is getting a lot more of attention than it used to, thanks to a lot of coverage, including ours at frontstretch.com. But
the best.
The best. But my point being is that we have so many great young drivers, a lot of like young guys, young prospects to pay attention to. And that means the sport is healthy. It's growing. We have a lot more guys to look forward to seeing in the future instead of just seeing the same guys in the Cup Series every single week, like we did back in, 2008, 2009.
It also pushed pressure on the Cup drivers. I mean, you know, Zane Smith is definitely a bittersweet story because he's had a typical rookie season where he's improved so much, but he's losing his ride at Trackhouse because, you know, you got to bring SVG up. And I know that's more of an age thing than necessarily a talent thing, but that's an example of it. But he, you know, and I'm not trying to defend the guy I've defended all year, but it's just the example I can think of. Like, you know, look at Harrison Burton and, you know, the Harrison Burton situation. He finally broke through in the Cup Series. And it was after he lost his ride. And he's going to AM Racing, which could be an improved 4 team with him. And I think will improve that team. And that could be an underrated move that, yes, it happened. But he could really, you know, we've seen how good he is in the Xfinity Series. So it is definitely very deep, and it's something, you know, and I think the fact they're going to be on broadcast television, you know, Michael Massie won't believe me because all you need is an antenna to watch it at the CW. To watch the CW, it's going to be really big for them to have that kind of platform because the most accessible NASCAR product next year for every race will be the Xfinity Series because all you need is bunny ears to watch it. So moving to our final topic, and we sort of had hinted at this. So Ross Chastain gets it done. The Melon Man gets it done. And that means, I don't know if this is the first time this has happened, but this is the first time in recent memory I can happen that no driver is locked in at Talladega and at the Roval, which are typically, you know, before they changed it to have Atlanta and Watkins Glen in the first round, the 2 wildcard races of the playoffs where most shakeups can happen. So my question for you guys is, do you think it's a good thing that they're literally, it feels like every driver could be eliminated still at this point heading into Talladega? Because I think Byron's like plus 30 at this point to the cut line, and if he wrecks early at Daytona, it could be really bad.
Yeah,
plus 34 to be exact, which means if he wrecks in lap 1, he could be below the cut line.
Yeah, he's got a race buffer, but that race buffer could be eliminated quickly. Kyle Larson had a race buffer going into this past week at Kansas, and now that's all but gone. And I mean, these 2 wildcard races is how a guy like Kyle Larson could fail to advance, because we know he's terrible at Talladega at all super speedways. So he could dig himself in a really big hole entering the Roval. So yeah, I love it when, yeah, honestly, like, would these playoffs be even better if you weren't locked in by winning a race? Because like Joe Logano, the last round, it was boring watching him after he won Atlanta. It's like just two meaningless races for him after that. So yeah, it's definitely making it more fun, more entertaining. The fact that we really have no idea who's going to compete for this championship.
Dalton?
Yeah, I remember the closing of the broadcast for Kansas, and they were looking at the point standings, and exactly what you said, what you guys said, is that William Byron, he's plus 34 above the cut line. He's got to be feeling pretty good about himself right now. I wouldn't. I mean, you Talladega. I mean, it's just like you guys said. Like lap one, you could wreck out, and it's. I mean, you could say that about most tracks. To be honest, you could say that like. Even despite the cushion, how big of a cushion you got, if you wreck on lap one, like you're going to lose all those points. But
you're way more
Talladega,
likely to wreck at lap one at Talladega.
It's much more likely to wreck at lap one at Talladega, correct? And
Josh Berry disagrees.
Well, I think that I hate Massie. You took all the stuff I was going to talk about because I was going to mention Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson, yeah, he had that cushion. He got ruined at Kansas. And now he's going to have a good run at Talladega because if he doesn't, he's going to be probably below the cut line as long as, most of the other playoff field kind of makes it through. And then he's got to rely on the Roval. And I know he's won there before, but that was, with the old car. I don't know if I can see him doing that again. So I do agree. I love the fact that nobody is safe right now. I mean, everybody's, there's not one team that just kind of like hang back and do, what Denny Hamlin did at Atlanta and just kind of ride around for however many laps and just not collect stage points and just, wait till the end. They all have to fight for it this weekend. That's a big deal. I also love the fact that there are some guys below the cut line that can capitalize this weekend. I'm sure Chase Briscoe's kind of going to be up there. Tyler Reddick won back in the spring. He's going to be really counting on a good weekend. And then, all the guys that aren't good at road courses, they need to capitalize this weekend too, because then they're going to have to move on to the Roval. So it's a high pressure situation. I think a lot of people don't like the fact that Talladega is in the playoffs and at all. I think that is just incorrect because it's super speedway racing. Like it's part of the sport. Deal with it.
You should have at least one of each style in the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
agreed.
Of the season.
Agreed. So, I'm glad it's in the middle of the round, but at the same time, the Roval's not that much better because I don't know if you could call that a wild card race, but it's pretty darn close. So, it's a high pressure situation this weekend, and I'm all for it.
I was just gonna add, I know a lot of people have mixed opinions about the playoff system in general, but I think that's kind of what makes this closer to a lot of stick and ball sports, where it's as soon as the playoffs start, it's anybody's for grabs. I mean, let's just quick baseball today. Like the Tigers, a team playing that's really hot. They come in Houston, a tough place to play, and get win in game number one. I mean, a lot of people look just
beat those cheaters.
Yeah. People look at on paper and say, "Oh, it should be the Astros," but that's what makes sports great. It's until you race the race or play the game, that sell anybody's shot. I mean, like you said, look at Suarez, and he's in 10th. He could easily go out there and win a play track. And then solidify himself for the rest of the round. Austin Cindric, he won at Daytona. So easily go from 12th to in just like that. So that's what's great about it, especially having Talladega right now in the situation we're in. Anybody's got a shot.
I have this weird feeling that Austin Cindric is going to win this week.
I was just about to say.
I can imagine. Would we be surprised? I guess not, right?
No, we wouldn't be surprised. He ran really good at Atlanta. Probably had the best car there.
I was going to say Chase Briscoe was going to win one of these two races.
Yeah.
But that, if either of them wins, it really tightens everything up. And then you're going to have somebody that had a great season missing.
Then a Larson or Byron who messes up, they're going to be really screwed,
Yeah.
Trey just made an excellent point about.
Think about this: the regular season champion is Tyler Reddick, and if the cut was now, he'd be out.
I think
number one seed going out early. I mean, that happens in sports.
Well, Larson, I think, was the 1 seed, right? Still, he had enough points. I think
going into this round.
Yeah, I think Reddick was the 3 seed overall coming into the playoffs, but the regular season champion.
Yeah,
because Kyle Larson missed a race.
Caleb just dropped us. I don't know if it's an official stat. He said he thinks, but maybe somebody in the comments can confirm it for us. But that Cindric has the best average finish in super speedways this year.
Stat
I
corner.
believe it.
Yeah, well, that ain't my stat corner. But Caleb mentioned that. I trust that. I trust that guy. So
I think it might have been he scored the most points on super speedways.
That's almost better.
Yeah,
it's even better. So, but like one thing before I give it to someone else, but Cindric, like if he gets a win, like now it's only 7 spots available for the round of 8, and we're gonna see some guys that are deserving of being there not there anymore. And I know I'm reiterating Massie's point, but I want to hammer that home. There is an opportunity for not just Cindric, but for a couple guys to do that this weekend. Just like Matt said, Daniel Suarez has got a shot. Chase Briscoe's got a shot. I can see that happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's Talladega. Like anything.
That's the beauty of it, right?
Can happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. One final topic as we're running out of time. It was announced this week that Full Speed would come back for season 2. I think that will be interesting. So if you were a driver and Netflix was following you around, where would you want them to see you?
Not in my motorhome after losing a race, I can tell you that.
What'd you say, Dalton?
Not in my motorhome after losing the championship like Christopher Bell did. That took some serious cojones.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to see them. I wouldn't want to see them like showing me crying.
I would say like the gym, like if most drivers not have muscle, so like you do a whole they get you to like you just basically like start playing the Rocky montage while you work out, and they have to film you, so you create your own Rocky montage.
I want to see them like if they got pulled over by a cop, if they would like use their fame.
I'll tell you one thing, where I want them to see me is at the beginning of the year, not just the beginning of the playoffs. I kind of wish it wasn't just harking down on the 10 races, because there's so much more that occurred throughout the year that we're missing. And I kind of feel like that was my number one complaint with the show last year, because they showed Ross Chastain as one of the main characters. They gave him a whole episode, and they barely talked about his rivalry with Denny Hamlin and the whole thing that
but that wasn't really a story of last season. That was more.
But it was the story of last season. Like Ross had to completely change his driving style. You could argue that he was way less aggressive, and maybe that cost him a couple wins.
That's true. I mean, at the race where it all changed, you and I were there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, that was a big deal.
I think it'll be interesting to see, because I don't think they said when they just announced the season 2 was happening. It could be, they didn't say it would follow them during the playoffs. Like,
I just hope it's more episodes.
I think it was a later, like the project came together a lot later last year than it did this year.
But they also just now confirmed it, which means
but it's because they were getting a deal together to make a production company. It's like NASCAR and this production company have formed their own production company. So
they have been I've seen Netflix at the track recently. So like they have.
You made a cameo, didn't you, one time?
Yeah, I was the star of season 1.
I was the only one not in the show.
I was on the USA show. I wasn't on the Netflix show. I was in the USA show.
I went to more races than everyone in this podcast combined, and I wasn't even in it.
All right. Go find a baby to punt. All right.
I will.
I was just going to say, if they're following me around, that I'd grab my guitar and just sing songs until
they'd quickly leave. They would quickly leave.
They had to make a soundtrack to go along with the song. And then I could launch that career that way.
Or they couldn't play any of the music because of copyright.
Just hit them with originals.
And of course, and just to cover our bases, Caleb has said that he would take them to a Long John Silver's. Just cover our bases here.
There it is. We gotta get one mention in.
All right. Matt, thanks so much for joining us at Matt Schwartz TV. Anything else you want to plug before we get on out of here?
No, I mean, just keep following Michael and the rest of the crew here at Front Stretch. You guys do a wonderful job. I'm thankful that you guys had me on again. Maybe I can get on one more time before the season closes out. But yeah, no, just enjoy the races and let's see what happens.
I do want to give a special shout out. Shout out to Jack Swansea, who's going to be on Jeopardy on October 14th. He of course
real Jeopardy.
Real
Not
Jeopardy.
Yeah. We're going to have a professional Jeopardy player on our show at some point.
He is part of our open wheel crew at Front Stretch. He used to co-host the Pit Straight. He is a legend. He is gonna prove he's smarter than all of us. It's what 2 weeks from yesterday. So tune in to Jeopardy. Check your local listings, and hopefully we'll have him on. And maybe we'll have him on for Front Stretch Jeopardy, so he can kick the two guys who have won. Because Tom is unreliable. Massie, are you riding this week?
No, I'm not riding.
All right, he's not riding. Are you going to the track?
Nope, not.
Sweet.
It's a lazy week.
Dalton's not going to the track yet. Oh wait, you are going to the track this weekend, right?
Not this weekend.
Okay, Caleb, that's
No.
it. I knew one of us.
Caleb's going.
Caleb's going to
Caleb
Talladega
going.
with Brian, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
No. He's
Good
gonna
luck,
corrupt.
Good luck, Caleb.
Well, if you need a camera guy, I'm here. So
I wanted he needs to send videos of he and Brian on the boulevard, and then we'll just play him on.
Well,
the
I'm
podcast
not going to say that. I'm not going to say that because I'm going to be nice to Brian as we wrap up because he'll host Bring the Heat with Brian Nolan next. That will do it for this episode of Happy Hour. We finished under an hour for once, so everyone have a good night, everybody.